Hello,
Hi.
welcome to Microsoft Community Insight Podcast, where we share insights from community experts who stay up to date in Microsoft. I am Nicholas, I'll be your host today. In this podcast, we'll dive into a theme of future work, empowering people through AI and community. Before we get started, everyone follow us on social media so you never miss an episode, and it helps us reach more amazing people like yourself. Today, we have a special guest called Henry Cook. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Nicholas. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, my name is Heather
No
Cook. I'm
worries.
coming to you from Los Angeles today. So,
No worries. So can you, before we get started, can you explain like what you do and who you are for the guest?
sure. Yeah, you bet. Absolutely. I am a principal PM manager on the customer advocacy team for Microsoft 365. So I work at Microsoft. I've been in my role just over, I don't know, about a year and a half on the M365 side of the house. I was on the Power Platform community and Dynamics 365 team, leading that team for a few years. And then I've been in and around Microsoft. It'll be 25 years next year with many hats. Sometimes I've been a full time employee, other times I've been a vendor, I've been a partner, Microsoft MVP for Microsoft 365. I run community events. I've been an event producer for a very long time, and I was a theater major back in the day at the University of Washington in Seattle. Go Huskies. So, yeah.
Okay, so if we rewind in the past, uh, what was your first role at Microsoft,
My
and
first
how did you get into Microsoft?
Sure, yeah. Well, my first role at Microsoft was actually as a consultant vendor back in
Oh,
2001, and, I'd gotten, laid off from this really great sort of machine shop, engineering shop for digital film cameras, in
uh,
Seattle. Yeah, back when we actually, we took pictures and,
okay.
with film. Yep, and, I sent out an email to a bunch of friends, and I had been doing some marketing consulting in town, helping arts organizations, and a friend of mine that I went to college with at UW, who graduated with me, his wife was working at Microsoft. And he said, I think Nancy needs some help doing some case study writing and some things. And he's like, I know you're a writer as well as a, actor and stuff. So maybe you should talk to her. And I said, cool. So he introduced me and we met, and she was the first group product manager for SharePoint. And that was in 2001. And so she hired me to write the first 150 case studies ever written on SharePoint. So that was my first job in and around Microsoft. It was super fun. So, yeah, long time ago.
Okay, so you learned quite a lot in SharePoint, and then probably
Yeah.
progress a bit.
Yeah, for sure. It was like SharePoint team services and
Yeah.
Windows SharePoint services and SharePoint portal server. So yeah, back in the beginnings of this, we just reached 1 billion users literally last month. So like from writing the first case studies to watching this product grow to 1 billion users has been a pretty cool journey. So, yeah.
Okay. So, so in 3 years' time after that, how did you get into the 365 community?
For me, it was because, and so I started working in and around Microsoft in 2001,
Yeah.
and I was working on marketing, kind of marketing projects. I was working with the fellow who was leading partners, which his name was Joel Fronheim back in the day. And he had me actually onboard the first 50 partners that SharePoint ever had. So I called everybody up and, said, hey, do you want to, be a SharePoint partner? And people were like, yeah, of course. That's it was a lot of ISVs, that they were
Yeah.
building solutions. And so, and then we wanted to put on an event. And so we decided to put on the first event on campus. And it was actually, funnily enough, it was called a SharePoint Smackdown. It was kind of like a wrestling tournament where people brought their web
Yeah.
parts that they were creating.
Okay.
And yeah, and there was this contest about who had the best web part.
Oh, it's
And
like a
so
challenge really for people.
yeah, yeah, it was kind of a little
Okay.
hackathon, and that
Yeah.
was, gosh, in 2003, and so then we decided we wanted to put on an actual bigger conference, and
Yeah.
then that was the first SharePoint conference where we had Bill Gates speak, and we had it on campus, and, yeah, and that was, yeah, 2003. So to me, that was I got into the community because I was helping bring people to SharePoint. So I
Yeah.
was connecting the community who was already making, all of these solutions to the product teams who was making SharePoint. And so I would say I was kind of a conduit actually in between. It was like, hey, community folks, come do these fun things. And hey, product team, meet the community. And so I was in the middle of really that moment of like, hey, wait a minute, there's all these people are super psyched about this product, and hey, there's the product maker. So I kept getting projects and things from Microsoft that kind of helped, facilitate those meetups and then those, user groups and the SharePoint Saturdays and different contests and hackathons and that kind of thing. So I was kind of that middle person in between everybody helping create that. And it was really organic. It wasn't like, I'm going to build this community or we're going to build community. It was, the community existed or was starting to exist, and then it just, kind of started snowballing from there, which was really cool. Yeah.
That is that how you like get started in 365 community and then enjoy the community and from there and progress?
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky enough to just continue to get projects. So I was a
Yeah.
vendor what they call a VDAsh or consultant, and
Yeah.
I worked through many cool, wonderful businesses. And yeah, and I kept getting hired by other, internal Microsoft employees that were like, "Oh, I heard you did this project," and "Oh, I heard you, did logistics or produced this event," and I would be like, "Yeah, I did." And so they would be like, "Well, do you want to do one for us?" And so I basically just said yes, to anybody and everybody because,
So
I was like,
yeah.
it's work and money. Yay, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Um, yeah. And then, it was one of those things where I got to use my creativity and theater in that I got to dream up events and projects and prizes for contests. And um, so I had all of that stuff that was coming from me. And then I was learning about, working for an enterprise class company like Microsoft,
Yeah.
process, procedures. And I've always loved gadgets and technology too. So, like with SharePoint, when it started, it was like I was building SharePoint sites internally all the time to run our events. Like I would create a new SharePoint site
Yeah.
to run whatever event we were doing. So I was learning how to build on the technology. At the same time, I was bringing creative ideas about how we should do fun things and celebrate people all at the same time. So it was a great learning experience for me, as a technologist, and as someone who really had that creative side of my education. But then, I really got my computer and business education from truly working at Microsoft. So, and working as a vendor and then as an employee, and all kinds of different things. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're quite popular in the 365 community, so I see you
Mhm.
quite a bit. So I know that you're quite popular, but do you want to talk about some of the community work you've done? And you can mention the Microsoft Community Initiative that you and Easy,
Oh yeah.
like
Sure.
how is it founded as well? What's the main purpose of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for saying that. I feel very lucky. I work really hard too, but I feel
Yeah,
very lucky that, I've had a lot of really great people in my life, great mentors and people who've given me opportunities to use my skills. And, at
yeah,
heart, I think I'm a producer, and so I love producing things and
yeah,
moments and events and all that. So yeah, I think so gosh, I'll go back a little to the SharePoint
yeah,
Saturdays, right?
yeah,
So, yeah, the SharePoint Saturdays, that whole thing, again, started super organically, as well as, the share pints of like going and, meeting up with people and having, doing a social activity, out somewhere. And what happened was during, the COVID pandemic, that, as we were moving into 2020, everything went from, the physical in real life to
yeah,
digital, right? We all went online. And I think at that time, SPS Events, which was the nonprofit that Susan Lennon and Eric Harlan were running that housed, the website for all of the SharePoint Saturdays, they've been running it for a really long time. And it had just grown and grown and grown. And any given Saturday, as you know, there were like 3 SharePoint Saturdays going on somewhere in the world, right?
Wow.
Which was so cool. And,
Yeah.
MVPs, Microsoft Most Valuable Professionals, and user group leaders, and regional directors, and people in their communities, decided to put on these shows year after year with so many volunteers and partner sponsoring and everything. And I think everybody, was like, what are we going to do? Like what happens if we can't get together? And
Yeah.
so that kind of converged at the same time of the nonprofit being around for a long time, everything trying to flip to digital. And I think Eric and Susan had decided that they were going to close the nonprofit and close the spsevents.org site. And so everybody was like, "Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? We can't let that happen, or what how should we pivot, And so there were lots of conversations. There was a big conversation actually on Facebook about it. And there was a lot of talk of like, how do we keep it going? And so, there was a lot of different conversations that were going on. And then I heard that Tom Daly, who's a Microsoft
Yeah.
MVP out of, Tom out of New York, said, we're going to build a new site. We're going to take up the reins and continue this great thing. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I was on the Power Platform team at the time. And I reached out to Caruana Gatimu, who is now my manager and somebody I've worked with for a long, long time now. And I said, hey, and I think she had heard it too. She was like, I heard about this. And I was like, cool. I was like, we should talk to Tom. And so we did, and said to Tom, hey, like you and the other folks that have been working on these things, let's have you, build it. And yeah, yay, maybe Microsoft can support it. So we can put it
Is
on
this
Microsoft
is this how
infrastructure.
communitydays.org formed?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, so that's communitydays.org. That's how that website happened. Yeah. And so, and it's still that same way right now.
Yeah.
As Tom is a board member of the Microsoft Global Community Initiative,
Yeah.
MGCI, which you were referencing, which I'm happy to talk about. That all got, started kind of at the same time, and yeah, has become really the place where people list their Microsoft community events, paid events, and free and hybrid and all of that. Tom and team of volunteers still keep up that site, and then it is on Microsoft infrastructure, meaning it's in our community tenant, and all of that. So that communitydays.org started, and then we thought, let's maybe we need to something around that is going to help event producers and people who want to put on events, existing event community, people who are already doing it, but then also new people who might want to start. So we created the Microsoft Global Community Initiative, which we love our acronyms,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So MGCI. And that has become a place that the communitydays.org connects into, and it's connected to it. But the initiative itself is a place where people can find event templates, how-tos. It's a place where people can talk together. It's a place where you can learn from other event organizers. We have an event training once a month. We have a general session once a month. And those are all online meetings, Teams meetings that we record, and then we put those on the Microsoft Community Learning YouTube channel so that people can learn. We have a site up on adoption.microsoft.com for MGCI that explains all about it, and it's 10 board members from the community and 70 regional leaders, as you know, yay.
Yeah.
So thank you, yay. And so we've got all of that good stuff up there. So the people, and then we're moving our discussions and blogs and all of that stuff. We already have moved it to the Microsoft Tech community. So there's a community hub there for MGCI where people can ask questions in the forum. We can post blogs, and we're putting up all of our events. Those general sessions and the event training
Yeah.
are all up there too. So yeah, that's how that evolved
Nice.
and started. Yeah. So
Nice. So fast forward to the present days. Do
sure.
you think the community in today would change with AI around? Would it make it things easier to organize things?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I'm already dipping into it for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, I mean, using
Or,
tools like SharePoint agents, GitHub
yeah.
Copilot. I'm using M365 Copilot every day to help me, write certain things. And I'm just started using Researcher, which is unbelievable. I mean, wow, like how cool is that? So yeah, I do. I think it will. what's one of the things I'm actually, funnily enough, I'm doing this summer is that, we just ended our fiscal year.
Yeah.
And so I did a bunch of recaps. And so I used M365 Copilot. I used a prompt of, go back and look at all of the event recaps that I
Yeah.
did for the year and create a bigger recap for me, with each event having a small bullet and how many people were there, highlights, and all of that stuff. And so I used it for that internally to be able to send that, and post that through Viva Amplify and then out to Viva Engage so I could share that with our internal teams. So I'm going to use it with Brian Hart, who works on the infrastructure and architecture of the community tenant and the MGCI. And then also on our team, Jesse Huang, who runs the adoption.microsoft.com. So I'm going to use it on content planning. I'm going to use it for scheduling. I'm thinking about how to use, AI and then set up things with Power Automate and then do some of that stuff. So yeah, so me running a community initiative,
Yeah.
I'm using it for that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can still use like Copilot or an AI like Microsoft Copilot to help you plan agenda and stuff. So it's quite useful to plan your events
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for agendas also, it's because 'cause I'm using it to try it out and see how it works. I have, I was like, "Hey, can you, generate LinkedIn posts for me for all the different events that we're doing?" And I put them in so I've got like this now, like my social media plan, uh, was built by Copilot.
yeah.
And I pointed it at different documents that we were already using as grounding documents, to pull in the information. So yeah, super cool.
Okay. So what do you think? Sorry. Do you have is there any specific use case that you use AI for, or you just use it for your everyday's work, like planning events, working like through emails and stuff? Do you?
Yeah. I mean, I think the social media for sure, writing
Yeah.
blurbs for things, and posts, that's been super helpful. So prepping all of that. I like to prep things in advance too. And so when I'm looking at, the next 6 months,
Yeah.
I'm looking at, do we already have guest speakers lined up and who are they? And so I'm planning sort of the content amplification of those things using M365 Copilot. And I have different documents where I keep, here's the plan. I'll create the plan with Copilot, and then I'll say, hey, create the social media plan underneath it. So I'm definitely using it for that. I'm also, I think the researcher tool I was using to look at, also just event production in general. I was thinking about like what's new, in event production.
Yeah.
What's the feel of the industry? How are people interested in longer sessions, like 60-minute sessions, or do they really like the 20-minute kind of TED Talk kind of sessions? And so I'm using researcher to help me formulate my strategy for this next year, thinking about how we Microsoft 365, our team is going to participate in events coming up. And I can use those insights to share with our event producers and say, hey, here's the trends in the industry that we're seeing, and what people are thinking about and what they want. So I'm using it for a few different
Yeah.
things for sure.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can use it for like a polling as well to get people
Mhm.
feedback on specific stuff they like
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Have
Yeah.
you been using like agents on 365 before? Like creating agents to do an
Mhm.
email or anything?
Yeah, I use the big change for me is that I used to start my day in Teams,
Yeah.
and now I start my day in M365 Copilot. And so, I go, you have those set prompts that you can use,
Yeah.
that are like, tell me what my day is like, or give me the
You can
hot stuff.
personalize it as well. Is
Yes.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of the big changes. And I really, the other thing is that I think for me, one of the changes too is that, because I was building so much and I helped so much with the switch from physical to digital with
Yeah.
Teams. Teams is so powerful, right? And
Yeah.
I still use it just as much as the Copilot for right now. But the thing is that I also, SharePoint is such a powerful tool. And so the center of the universe for me for a while was Teams. And now with a lot of the new capabilities in SharePoint, and that are building on, the pages and the gorgeous design and all the templates. So much. Melissa Torres, she was with us at TechCon Seattle here this last week, and just all the things that she was showing us, the the different pages, and just it's so exciting. So I'm thinking a lot about how I want to potentially this summer rebuild some things internally for myself of how we
Yeah.
manage events with SharePoint really as the focal point. Not necessarily Teams, of course, but SharePoint as that showpiece for showing people information. And because I want to build a bunch of SharePoint agents too. And
Okay. Yeah.
that's really exciting to me. So we built one SharePoint agent, Adam Harmitz, who's my skip level manager. He was our executive sponsor for the M365 community conference. And he challenged me. He was like, hey, do you want to, create one of these for the show? And I was like, awesome. Yeah. So my Brian Hart and I worked on it together with their team. And it was a little before things came out too, so we were kind of dog fooding it as well. And so it was really cool to build behind an agent, and it was all for our speakers basically. So we were
Yeah.
anybody who was internally speaking at the show, we grounded that agent against the what we call it a walking deck, and it's a deck that's got a PowerPoint deck that's got everything about the show that you
Okay.
could imagine in it, right? We did a speaker training, so we had a recording. We had another deck that was all about accessibility, and making sure that your decks were accessible and inclusive. And so we had about I would say 4 or 5 grounding documents that we pointed the agent at. And so, yeah, and then instead of us, answering 15 million questions over and over again, we could take, and tell everybody, hey, go check out the agent first, and ask your questions there. And it worked really well. We got a little great feedback. And what was cool is because it was a little bit, before it launched, we got to, give a bunch of feedback on it too, back to the team, which was really cool. So yeah, so I love that. I am doing that. I'm going to build those for every show that we're doing. I also there's the new FAQ web part that is amazing. That is, if you haven't seen that or checked that out yet, Melissa was just talking about it in the keynote. She showed a demo of it. But you know how to write
Is that on SharePoint? The
SharePoint.
FAQ? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, think about how tedious it is to write an FAQ because you have to think of all the questions, right? And then all the answers. And you have to every time. This thing is it's it's so WYSIWYG, it's crazy. Like I was like, I need to do this thing, and it was like, and I was like, I was so excited. So like those two things I think are going to change the way I work on event production internally to our internal Microsoft speakers, but
Yeah.
also with how I speak with our the initiative members, and also
Yeah.
hopefully like setting up how to's for our event producers to use when they're managing events with community speakers as well. So it'll be cool.
Yeah. Because you can put that into a document like in a PDF and so send it off. Get an
Hmm.
agent to email it to people.
Yep, 100%. So, yeah, super cool. So I'm excited to this is going to be my summer. My summer is going to be building agents and working on taking some playbooks and turning them into agents as well. So, yeah, and I just sometimes you just need to re-architect things, and so I'm
Yeah.
going to spend this summer doing some of that, which is really cool.
Okay. What's your best advice to anyone who want to start building agents using like Microsoft, like 365 or Copilot?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, first of all, it's on the left-hand rail. So if you're in Microsoft 365 Copilot, the left rail is literally there's like you can build an agent right then and there, and there's also some
Yeah.
prefab stuff that you can look at for templates. I would say that the place I always start and send everybody, honestly, is adoption.microsoft.com. And there is a new AI agents page there with step-by-step instructions and information about adopting the software, which we're all trying to adopt the software,
Yeah.
right? So, but it's awesome. We just launched that. Jesse was working on that with the product team, and we launched that at Microsoft Build, and so she talked about it there. But I'm pretty sure there's an AKA link for it. I can make sure you have the AKA link to put in your show notes. But
Okay.
it's already up. It's awesome. That's totally where I would start. But also, if you've got Copilot, and you can check out the left rail and just sort of look around for the beginnings of, what it's like, and just try something. I think that's the thing, is that you just try and build an agent, and you can have one grounding, two grounding documents that you can even make up. I'll tell you, I was using, I have another copy of, I have M365 Copilot, and I have a personal, I have a copy of it that I pay for myself at home, and through one of my businesses. And I was using it the other day to like look up a bunch of stuff, even like about my own health. I was, wanting to like think about, a better workout and what vitamins I take and kind of all that stuff. And so I basically put it all into researcher and was like, boop. And it's something that now I can take and I can go talk to my doctor about. So yeah,
Yeah.
all kinds of uses. So yeah.
I guess the only people to help like use Copilot would just be the elderly people, like your
Mm,
parents, your family, because it will help them more. Like as
yeah.
with accessibility, like if someone's not in no English and from a different language, that would help a lot as well. So
Yeah,
like you mentioned
absolutely.
accessibility.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, and people are like, oh, is AI, I think, can be a community amplifier. I
Yeah,
think it can help us build content faster. I think it's really about, telling stories about what people are doing, solving real problems with
yeah,
AI. That's really exciting to me. And I think, um it's one of those things where just give it a try. So many people are like,
yeah.
"What's this AI thing?" And it's
My best advice is to do something based on your interest. It's like what you did, Heather, based on events, help you
Mhm.
schedule events. But if you find someone that's interested in, like, for example, playing guitar, do it,
Yeah.
do something Copilot regarding that because it help you pursue it and learn
Mhm.
more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I showed my, I was with my parents this last weekend because I stayed in Seattle for a couple of days, and I showed them, that health piece that I was talking about, and
Yeah.
they were blown away. And and so they were like, "Okay, well, make it do this," and so we got to this where we were just sitting there playing with it. "Will it do this? And how do you do that?" And, so that was really fun, to show them how it all works too. So they got really excited. My mom was like, "Where can I get this?" I was like, "It's right here. You can go on Copilot right here. It's on your phone." And she was like, "I have it?" I was like, "Yes, you have it." So it was kind of fun.
Okay. So I'm just curious, since you're quite popular in communities, what's your best community event or conference you've been to?
Oh gosh, what's the best community conference or event? Well, first of
Uh,
all, I love all of the events equally, of course,
okay.
because,
Which is
I
your favorite?
I don't know, I won't say favorite, but I will say that, you know, I I've gone to so many things over the years, and I love experiential,
Yeah.
moments, and things. And so, like, and I tend to go to see a lot of things that are outside tech, as well.
Okay.
And so, where I will tell you where I go for inspiration. How about that? I go for, like, I went to Meow Wolf in, Las Vegas, and those museums and installations are really, really interesting, and they definitely stretch my mind. So, I'm always looking for kind of the new interesting thing that you can bring in to what we do, with technology events. I love events that, have obviously focus on community, as well as the beautiful content and skilling, that comes through the sessions. I also just think it's super important to like think about how what the experience is going to be like for someone, coming, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes we can get caught up in just simple things actually matter. Can people find a place to get water? Are you serving coffee? Like, are you doing extra special things to make sure that registration goes well and that it doesn't take forever? People's comfort is actually really, really important, because if they aren't comfortable and don't feel like they have, a moment to even, or a place to sit down, like those things make a difference. And
Yeah.
and scheduling too. You can't schedule, you have to have breaks. You have to have a decent lunch. You have to, like, it's nice when you have something like a nice, gift or thank you for them, or a good
Yeah.
bag or a t-shirt, or opportunities to, like, win prizes and to interact with other people, and like networking and all of that. Like, those things are really important. And space also for different groups of people to get together. I love it that so many conferences we have a women and allies lunch or a track, and we think about inclusion, and we get there's space, on certain event apps to create meetups. It's like
Yeah.
SharePoint runners, or the LGBTQ community, or whoever is at a show, that they can, like, put together a group and get together with people. I think I love that, and I think that's super important. And when you don't think about those details, people won't come back to your event. They're like, they don't really understand the human experience of it. Um, so yeah, so I can't talk about favorites, but I can talk about elements that I really appreciate. So yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it's just like meeting people. So it's just like
Mhm.
meeting people and then uh, get to know each other and then learn from each other, really, I would say, and
Mhm.
grow each other.
Yeah,
So if you were to
absolutely.
define community in one word, what would you define it as?
Belonging.
Belongings.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
we all wanna belong. Every
Yeah.
person on the planet
Yeah.
wants to
w-
belong. They wanna feel like
Yeah.
they belong. They wanna be connected. We all want that. I think it's belonging, that you belong to something, and people care about you, and that you belong to something that's greater than who you are. No matter what it is, technology, soccer, whatever. All of those things, make, I think, what community is truly at the heart of it. So, yeah, belonging.
Yeah. Yeah. That's sure. Brilliant. Yeah. So thanks for joining this episode, Heather. It's a
Sure.
pleasure to have you. So learn about lots of interesting thing about SharePoint and the community. Yeah,
Yeah,
so if anyone wants to join the 365 community, you can speak to Heather and she will
yeah,
direct you and she will help you on board yourself, like train you up as well. So quite big. If you're new to, like, for example, public speaking, or you're not speaking, but you like to just like take part, you can still just take part without speaking. So
yeah. Come join in the fun. Happy to have everybody. Everybody is welcome. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to say hello to you. Feel free to ping me with a message. My job is connecting people and getting you what you need as far as the Microsoft ecosystem goes. So yeah, then Nicholas, this is great. And congratulations. I see you, like, you're over what, 50 episodes? It's very cool.
yeah, I try when
Yeah.
I can, just speak to people when I can to
Yeah.
help people learn Microsoft, really.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's really great, and thank you for having me on. It's been nice seeing you at so many events too as of late, so thank you for
yeah,
what you
it's
do
good.
for the community. Really, thank you. It's awesome.
What's your next event you're going to?
My next event, I've got 2 coming up. I'm going
Oh,
to San
okay.
Diego Comic-Con. I'm hosting I'm a moderator for a panel at San Diego Comic-Con at the end of July.
Is
It's
that
all
is that like platform con or something, or is it just
No,
what
it's
is?
it's San Diego Comic-Con. It's sort of the big, event that's all about comics and,
Okay.
gaming and all of that stuff. Yeah, so I'm doing that.
Nice.
Yep, so about careers in technology, design, costumes, and then the next, Microsoft event is, I will be at TechCon Atlanta, August 11th through the 15th in Atlanta, Georgia. So, yep.
Yeah, because I remember before. last week you told me you went to TechCon already, but is there another TechCon event?
Yes,
What
yes, this was TechCon
what
Seattle. Yeah, there's 3 of
is
them in the year.
is it based on different city in America?
Hmm?
Because is it TechCon based on different city? Like in
Yes.
Seattle, you said last week, now next
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
week is
yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah, so they do so Dave and Sharon who run, the TechCon 365 event production, they do 3 events a year.
Yeah,
They always do a Seattle one, which is a combo, which is TechCon 365, PowerCon, and DataCon, and that just happened. And so it was the data fabric, Power Platform, and M365 speakers and stuff. So it was a combo of all 3. And
yeah,
then TechCon Atlanta is focusing on collaboration, so more of the M365. And then they'll do they have another one, TechCon Dallas, which is in December. So yeah, it's cool because they're regional, but in the United States, and then they're also depending on what city, there's a focus maybe on the industries of that city potentially.
yeah.
Chicago tends to have a bit more manufacturing, and then sometimes it's in Dallas, like in December, and that's like more maybe utilities and oil and gas. So with Atlanta, you've got different industries there too, with healthcare and other things.
Do they
So yeah,
specialize in Microsoft or just different
mhm,
like technology
Microsoft,
overall?
yeah, mostly
Okay.
Microsoft, yeah, yep,
Oh,
for
nice.
sure.
Haven't heard of it. That's why it
Oh,
sounds
okay,
very
yeah,
cool.
they're great. They've been doing them for over a decade. They were called. They started out as SharePoint Fest. It was called SP Fest, and
Okay.
then it was oh gosh, 365 Educon, which I told Dave I didn't really like the name because it just
Okay. So
because I was like it made me think it was like education, like K-12 or college or university. So
yeah.
TechCon to me, I love their new name. So yeah, but that we were just there for that. So yeah, I was
And
in
you got
Seattle for the
renamed
week.
a few years
Yep.
time.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
So
No worries. So aside from the community work, amazing community work you do, and the Microsoft stuff, what do you have any hobbies that you know to do in the spare time aside
oh
from events planning, of
yeah, right,
course?
right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've been taking I always love working on, some acting, so I've been
Yeah.
actually in voiceover class
Mm.
for animation and video games. So, it's like I'm like
Okay.
playing, like a ghost or something, or I'm like, or, like so it's been fun playing with that. I started DJing in January.
Yeah.
Started playing with that. So I've done a few gigs, which has been kind of fun. So I love music, I love theater, I love museums. So I do since I live in Los Angeles, and so
Yeah.
there's a lot of live music here, a lot of theater, and a lot of comedy too in LA. So I try and just get out a lot and do those things, and I love to read as well. So yeah.
Okay. So there's quite a lot of like comedy club and stuff,
Mhm.
comedy
Comedy.
gig and like music festival where you are and things.
Mhm. Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, super fun. Yeah, and I love being outside too. So, anytime I get to go to one of our parks or, I live really close to the beach too, so we go to see the sunset a lot. So, yeah, super
Which
fun.
is your closest beach?
Venice Beach. Venice Beach.
Okay. Nice.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's sunny here in England, London,
Uh-huh.
so it's quite sunny, like 30, 34,
Oh, yeah.
31. So it's quite we're loving it. So
Yeah, that's
it's
nice.
always on the news, which I'm not sure why people's complaining, but
Right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I love traveling too. I mean, that's one of the benefits of this job that I've had for
yeah,
over 20 years is I've really gotten to see the entire world, in 2019, before the pandemic, I did 28 events and I was in 6 or 7 different countries, and it was like big ones. It was like New Zealand and South Africa and France, and I was in India. Like that year was this epic year of travel for me. So but anytime I get a chance to go somewhere, I'm very much like, "What? Yes, please sign me up." So, yeah, I love it.
Is there not such thing as too much travel at once, or you just want to just travel when you can because you want to
Yeah.
explore different culture and different countries and
Yeah.
things?
I think, that year, I don't know if I'd wanna do that again,
Yeah.
it was interesting for 2020, I was set up to travel a lot that year too, um, and I am good with it having, slowed a little bit from me, but I still really love traveling, and I also,
Yeah,
whenever I go somewhere, a lot of times just, also the what community also, the other word to me is family.
yeah,
Really, like, I feel so lucky that I know people all over this gorgeous world of ours, I mean, any given city, there's SharePoint, there's Microsoft, there's data there's Microsoft community people in every city in the world, for the most part, and it's just anytime I go, I usually try and put something out and or, I'm there because I'm there for an event or I'll stay a couple of days, and I just I always it's amazing. I've had so many people show me around their cities and, and when people come to LA a lot, they'll tell me I live really close to the LAX to the airport.
yeah.
So, some people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna be heading to the airport and, I've got like 5 hours or whatever." And I'm like, "Well, come by, or I'll meet you somewhere and we'll have, lunch or something." And so it's just I feel just it family as well. Belonging, but also, I feel like so
Family.
connected to people,
Yeah.
all over the world, which is just amazing,
Yeah,
So,
because plus
yeah.
I want to mention community is not all about tech. You don't need to be a tech to be in community. You
No.
can be like a tour guide. You can have your own like community that play your interest, for example, beach or like
Mhm.
volleyball club and
Yep.
stuff. And that would just it just pretty much group bringing people together with the same interests.
Oh, yeah. My partner, Wade, he has a board game group.
Yeah,
So, like, they love tabletop board games, and they get together and love it, and I love board games too. I don't love them like they love them, but, like, because 'cause they're very serious about it, like, they'd hardly even talk to each other, like, they play board games, right? I'm more social than that, but, because I like talking a little too much, but, it's
yeah,
like but they have a wonderful community of people that they play board games with, and then when you a lot of times too, when you, like, find a community, like with board games, there's board game community shops and places where you can go in and play games for the day, with your family or with other friends and stuff, so there's so many communities, like you were saying, it's not obviously just about tech, but there's people who love to read or people who love to quilt or,
yeah.
and meetup.com and Eventbrite, both of those places are still, to me, great places to find your people, or your community of people who like whatever it is, like I recommend anybody, like when you're, moving to some place or whatever, check out what's going on meetup.com. It's one of the largest collections of communities out there. So, and they do a great job. They've been around close to 20, I think 20 years as well. So, highly recommend for sure.
So, if someone like is new to community, what are the
Mhm.
best first advice you give? Because I remember like when I started first time going to
Mhm.
meetup and stuff, I was shy. I kind of like when I approach someone saying hi, those things,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
kind of like trying to hit my nerves and try to just go for it because
Mhm.
that's how you make friends of the same interest that you want. And so whether we're talking about you new to the city or stuff, talk about like what you're gonna do, things as well.
Yeah, I mean, for Meetup, I mean, it sort of depends on the group and how they do things,
Yeah,
but, like, usually the first step is joining,
yeah,
and a lot of them, you join and sometimes they have questions that you need to answer, to be a part of it, and you can see what they're doing, like, sometimes they'll have you'll be like, "Oh, well, I guess there's a group that gets together, and there's one happening this week," and so, you know, ask and see if you can join or if it's a more public one, you can go, check it out and see if you like it, that kind of thing. I think, if you're looking for community, I think there's lots of ways depending on if you're an introvert or an extrovert or, there's
yeah.
something for you out there. From looking at different things and you'll get a feel from it of what feels comfortable and and how you want to do it. But the first thing is really looking and then potentially joining something. And just because you join something online doesn't mean you can like, you can be like, this wasn't for me. You can, take yourself out of it too. So, I think the options are open for sure.
Yeah, I would say joining as well as trying to interact with the members because
Yeah.
if you interact with members and then they have like a book club, you can
Mhm.
still someone there because you know the
Yeah.
members. It's easier to approach people by interacting with people
Yeah.
online. So that's
Mhm.
I would say that's the first step. Someone were to become like shy at first, like in person.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Yep. People who are putting on these things, they want new people, you know?
Yeah,
So they're looking for
we
different
want
people
people
to
of the
bring.
same interest, people to hang out
Yeah.
with, people to just I don't know, to spend their Saturday night joining something and stuff,
Yep.
talk about tech, talk about anything really.
Yeah,
The same. Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
to have a new friend or have a family as well. So,
Mhm.
i-
Yep.
okay. Thanks for joining this episode, Head Cook. It's been amazing to learn a bit a lot of things about SharePoint communities as well. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank